All right, so I've got my pencil drawing, but I'm going to show you how to do it over here on the iPad so that it's a little bit clearer. The very first thing I want you to do is we're going to go where the edge of our door is. So I want you to make 2 straight lines. And you want to leave a little room on the side because this is this line. So we want to have enough room over here on the side to add a lot of other stuff. So leave about maybe an inch, inch and a half on the sides there. And we'll just get our door set. And then we can go ahead and add the dome of the door. This is all going to be in pencil. So you're going to start in pencil. We're going to make the foundation. And then we'll go back over it in marker. And then we'll just do the bottom of our door. So now we have the basic shape of the door. Next, we are going to add the little trim on the edge of the door. So we'll come out on either side just a tiny bit and we will echo the shape of that door almost exactly, but just a little bit bigger. So that will be the little trim that goes around our door. And then we'll come and put this piece of wood that runs along the bottom of the door. So now we've got an upside down U, we've outlined it, and we've put the bottom of the door there. Now let's put this piece that goes across. So I'm going to start here and here, and I'm going to go up to the other corner with a nice diagonal. So that's our piece that holds all the wood on the door together. And then we're going to add our little front step. So we're going to come down, we're going to diagonal a little bit. We're going to come down and out like that. And then we want to go straight across. So kind of the same straightness as that line there. And we'll just connect at the edges. Perfect. Now we've got the basic shape of the door and the basic shape of the doorstep. Then we're going to add a little bit of dimension to that doorstep. So we're just going to add 2 short lines and 1 more that comes across. So now we have an actual step. Hooray! Let's put, all right, so now let's make our little hardware, like the doorknob and stuff. So we're going to have a round piece. And then this part can come down and flare out. It can be a little bit decorative. But then we need a little handle. So let's make, I'm going to make a round piece. And then this kind of comes off it like a bird beak. It's one of those handles that you push down to get in. Then let's put our hinges on. So the hinge is just going to be a curvy triangle. And we're going lines over lines in pencil because when we come back in and work on this one in marker, then we'll know what's in front and what gets priority. So now I'm going to put a little peephole up here so we can know who is knocking to get into our garden. So it's kind of like a big D with another D right inside of it. So we echo that shape again. Now we're going to make one more arch that goes up and around. This one is a little bit wider. It's not supposed to be uneven the way I drew it, but it's okay if it is. It's still going to be cute at the end, I know. All right, so we've got our door and we've got our little, this is kind of our little entrance to the garden. Now, if you want to, and I want to, I'm going to make a flowery vine that goes all around the inside of this little door. And then on that vine, I can put a lot of little leaves. So I'm just gonna make little fat leaves that go around. And the leaf can come over, whoops, the leaf can come over this part. I'm not gonna put it over the actual door because that's the part that would open. And our little leaves might get stuck in the door if we do that, but it can come across that trim piece. And I'm gonna do some leaves and some swirls and some flowers. You don't have to add the same things I'm adding here. This is where you can get very creative and you can do whatever you want. I'm gonna zoom in so you can see my leaf shapes that I'm drawing. So these are just going around and around and around. And we can overlap a little bit. That's just fine. So there's some leaves. And we can add, I have a lot more leaves on that side than I do this side, huh? But we can add flowers. So I can do a round, kind of a daisy type flower. I can do a flower that's more of a swirl that's closed off. So that's kind of like a rose. I can do a flower that is trumpet shaped. I can do, what other kind of flowers can we do? We can do a swirl that comes down like this or goes up and over. Can come across the door. So you can just repeat those different little flower patterns. You can give them individual leaves if you want to. You can make more than one kind of flower. Like maybe these flowers are connected a little bit. So add as many flowers as you want so you have them in there. Next, what I am going to do is simply add a wall. So this is going to be the stone wall that you use to get into this garden. So I'm going to draw some very light lines that come across like so. And these aren't small like bricks, they're bigger lines. These are big stones that make up the wall that goes around my peaceful little garden. And I'm gonna come down to about right here. And then I'm gonna stop with all my lines. Then I'm gonna make kind of a brick pattern. And I'm gonna start right at the middle because I feel like that's a great place to start. So these are going to be wide bricks, and we're going to alternate where the lines go. So I'm going to find the center of each of these, and that's where the next line will be. And then we won't have one here, but we might have one here. And you kind of just skip around. I've gone off my paper on the iPad here, but you get the idea. So we can have one here, and here, and here. But that is our garden gate entrance. And I'm just gonna go, you can go up to the top or you can have a little sky showing at the top. That is up to you. And then whatever you want down here, you can have some plants, you can have an animal, you could have all kinds of stuff. But I'm probably just gonna have grass. So I will paint that in later. But now it's time to move on over and get started with our actual paper. All right, so I'm gonna come in now with my marker, and I'm using something that I know is waterproof. That way, if I come in and I wanna use watercolors, it's gonna be okay. Let me get my focus set here so that we aren't focusing on the end of the pen, we're focusing on the paper. There we go. The very first thing I'm gonna go in my pen and do is the big arch. So I'm gonna go all around because this is the line that all of my little flowers and leaves need to stay in. So I'm gonna do this line first. It's not perfect, but luckily it doesn't have to be. It's not for a grade, it's not for a contest. It's just for my enjoyment. So that is the first line I am going to do with my marker. Then I can come in and let's do the step next. Now we'll work on the step. And I'm going to turn my paper a little bit because it's easier for me to make that line straight if my paper is turned a bit. And it's okay to go a little off course of where you were with your pencil. All right, so I've got my step. I'm going to go ahead and make the down part of my step just because it doesn't really matter when I do that. I'll go across there. So then we need to think, what is the most in front? What is the thing that is the most in front? And I think for me, it's these flowers. So I'm going to go around and do my flowers. And I'm going to start with the flowers and not the vine. And the reason is the flowers are in front of the vine. So I want to be able to see these cute little flowers and leaves very clearly. So I'm going to go around all my leafies and all my flowers. And this flower has its own leaves. I love making this little leaf shape. I don't know about you, but it is one of my favorite things to do. This is a very fat flower. I like it. And I'm going to have all these cute little leaves that are curling around my door. And I'm turning my paper so that I don't have to rest my hand on the paper. But I'm bringing the paper right to the place I want to draw. And this is a time where you can go off plan. If you feel like, hey, I want another flower or I want another leaf, you can always add it right there with your marker. Excuse me. All right, this leaf is very friendly. Just going to keep rotating. And I'm going to go around and add this big flower that's right at the top, at the front of my door. And since I've already penciled it in, I just don't have to think too hard. It's kind of nice. Sorry about that. I've got a scratchy throat this morning. All right. Tiny leaves. They're so cute. Coming around. Finding another of these little tulip-shaped flowers. And I'm almost to the end of my leafy flower portion. It's looking great. And you don't have to only do leaves here. You might feel that you want some snails, some butterflies, whatever little bugs you might want to have visiting your garden gate. Maybe a bird. So now I've got all of my leaves drawn in. Oh, you know what? I don't. There's a tiny little leaf right here. Then I can go in and add my vine. You can do the vine two ways. You can make it thick, or you can just go right along your line. I'm going to go right along my line and let this vine just coast right on through, right where I drew it in pencil. I'm going to add this cute little swirl and this cute little swirl. And then as I'm making my way up, I'm adding very slowly so I can stay on the line that I made. I'm adding that little vine. And anywhere it goes behind a flower, I'm just picking up because it would be on the other side of the flower. So now is when we have to start thinking in 3 dimensions. We have to think, all right, what is in front? And that's what's going to get the line. And then we just go behind the things that would be over our line. I'm going to give that one a little curly cue at the end as well. So now that we've done our flowers, you can always go back and add little flourishes. Like you can add a little line to the middle of your leaves. You can add some little lines to give your flowers more dimension. But I'm probably going to do that later. I know that those are there and I can go back. All right, so next, let's start with our door. So what's in front in the door? The thing that's the most in front is this handle right here. So I'm going to go around and add my handle. Then we can add the hardware that goes with the handle. So we can go around and follow that line that we have here. But when we get to the handle, we're going to stop because the handle's in front. The next thing that would be in front is probably these hinges. So let's go ahead and add our hinges. And here we're running into the vine. So we're just gonna work like that. So we've got our hinges. And then we can go ahead and do the outline of the door. I think that's fine. And anywhere I run into something that's already there, I'm just gonna pick up and go around it. All right. And we can do this line that goes across the little bottom board on our door. Then we can do our peephole. So cute. And we can do this diagonal piece that goes across here because it's in front of the slats that make up the door. But when we get to that hinge, it's behind the hinge, so we're just gonna pick up and go until we hit a line. So we are really making progress. Now let's do this inner part of the door, but we're gonna have to pick up a lot because we are gonna run into a lot of little leaves that we already drew. But that's okay because we have that pencil line, which is going to guide us and let us know where we need to draw this. I'm just gonna pick up every time I get to a little flower or a leaf. And I'm gonna let that flower or that leaf be the thing that's in front. There we go. And I'm going to come down and meet that. So now we have very cute. However, I want this to be more decorative. So what I'm going to do is start adding some little, like it's made of little bricks. So I'm going to add these lines going all around. And anywhere I run into a flower or a leaf, I'm gonna not go over it. So it's starting to feel more quaint and more like a garden with every little detail that we add. So these might be bricks, they might be blocks of wood. I don't know. I didn't build the door. Now we can add our lines that make our stones, and these are very light and wispy. You don't have to make them as thick as the other lines because they're not quite as important. They're just building the background. So I'm going to make them a little bit lighter. There we go. And then the last one's going to end right at the same line as that door. So we're going to end it right here at the same place. And then I can go in and put the vertical lines to show where my gate is, where the breaks in these stones are. This pen doesn't like to write on the side edge very much. Whoop, I'm getting out of the camera there. Sorry about that. I'm going to add these. And when I come back in and paint is when I'm really going to give these their texture. All right. So now what do we have left to do? We're going to jazz up this door. We're going to give the door some wood panels. So I've kind of already put those wood panels in there with my pencil. So I'm just going to go over them, and I'm going to pick up anytime I run into another piece of the door that we already drew there. Adding my little wood planks of the door. I'm already thinking about when I paint this, is this door going to look like natural wood color, or am I going to paint it an actual color? What color would the door to my cute little garden be? I am not sure. All right, now let's see, what should we do? Let's add some little hardware. Oh, we need to add a keyhole. So my keyhole is going to be round at the top and have a little piece at the bottom like that. And I'm going to turn sideways. So I'm going to add some lines, and these are very wispy, quick lines that are kind of all different shapes, just to show this door is made of wood. It's aging a little bit. And what else should we add? We need some hardware on our hinges, so I'm going to add 2 on this end and 1 on this end. Same for the other hinge. So 1 here. And then we need some nails on our planks of wood that make up the door. So let's add a couple here and a couple here. And then we can add some little pieces that make this look more like a little bit of weathered wood too. And we can add a few through here that are just very light. You can add some dots too, just in an illustrative manner, showing that this is something that's a little bit aged, it's a little weathered, it's kind of old, so we're building texture. And we can do that also on these, but what I'm going to do is add a little nail on each one. At the bottom, and then I'll do the same thing up around the top. And let's see, do we want one here? Let's have one there. We can't see this one because that is nailed right over it. All right, and then we need some sort of, let's see, I'm going to do the same little fun lines around this like I did the outside of the door. That's a good time. And then maybe we have some little bars coming across here. Let's do that. That's fun. You can't get through here, folks. It's very secure, this garden gate of ours. So I've just added kind of it's like a tic-tac-toe board inside of our little window. Now we can add, if we want to, we can add some of these, like the wood texture. This pen does not like to write on its side. All right, so let's add, I'm gonna add a little more of this wood texture. The more I think about it, the more I think I'm probably gonna make this door a color, but it's still gonna be weathered wood, so I don't mind that we have these weathered lines in the door panels. I think it's cute. It reminds me of hobbits or the secret garden. Just makes me think of a very cute place. So I'm going to add a few more of these very light lines through the wooden parts of my door. These would be optional. You don't have to add them. I think they give it some lovely texture. And this part here, I think this is stone. So I'm not exactly sure how I want to texture it. Maybe I'm just going to not texture it. This is stone, and then this is grass down here. So I will use my watercolor or my markers when I come in to paint this and add some texture there. But I can add a few little, I can add some dots here and there just to give it a little something. And then on our, let's see, let's add some little texture on our hardware of the door here. I think I'm going to make some tiny dots here too. This is all optional. If you're ready to paint, if you're done with this part, you can absolutely be done. I might go in and I'm going to add some more texture to all of these little leaves. So I'm just going to add a curvy line in the middle of the leaf, and that's going to help us show that this leaf is very fat and curvy. And then on our flowers, we can always add some little lines like in here to give our flowers some texture. So these ones, I'm just going to add simple lines to the center and maybe a few dots. What else do we have? Oh, we have this one. And then this one, I'm going to add the same little folds in the center of this petal. And this can get these contours. Same here. You can put little dots in there too, just because it makes it the same style as the things we've put around it. So I may or may not be ready to paint yet. What do we think? We'll put a few little dots here and there just for effect. And I think that once I start painting, these dots aren't going to make as big of a difference, but it sure is fun to throw them in there, I'll tell you. All right, so I'm ready to go ahead and get started painting. So I'm going to do that. All right, so I'm going to start painting. I'm going to use my Praying watercolors, and I'm going to use the brush that came with them. And I don't think it's necessary to tape all the edges of this, but I am going to tape it down just in one place, only because I don't want it to move out of the camera frame, and I get really bad about that. My strategy is going to be, I'm going to paint all the parts that would be very light, very much of a wash first. So what I'm going to do is probably paint the stones first. And then since this stuff is all by the stones, I'll move in and I'll paint something else that isn't next to it. Like maybe I'll paint the door next. And then once those stones have dried, I'll come in and I'll paint this little background here. And then since that's going to be wet, I'll wait to paint my flowers. I'll go back and maybe add some texture to the stones. So I'm going to time lapse this because I know it's going to take me a long time. And you want to see how I do it so you can go in and do it. So here we go. I'm going to speed it up. I'm going to paint this in time lapse.